All right, Jess, we're on a little bit of a time crunch tonight. Are you ready for rapid fire?
I am 1,000% ready for rapid fire.
Sounds like either Henry or Scooby is ready for rapid fire. I heard a yes, I think, in the background. Over under 1,200 rushing yards for Audric Estime by the end of the regular season. This does not include a potential bowl game.
So good old Audric Estime, right? He's at 787 rushing yards. He's at just about 100 per game. He's got 4 games left. If he averaged what he's doing on the season, he should land right around 1,200. I think Notre Dame has gone through some of its, not gauntlet of defenses, but they've faced some of their tougher defenses. And I think that he's going to have big games kind of with the remaining of the schedule. And I won't give too much of, a little bit of Pitt preview that I got. But I think that this game is going to be run heavy. And I think that's going to bore a lot of people out. But I think Notre Dame and Pitt are going to both run the ball a ton. And so I hope Notre Dame gets creative in their running sets. But I think Audric Estime is going to have a big game, and he's going to continue to be, at 100 yards or better like he has all season.
Is this Sean? Is that how you say that? Cian Angelo? I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce that, but he says Audric needs 200 yards a game. He deserves the carry. Joe says under because Clemson will keep him from 1,200. That is a good point. Mr. 2.0 says they don't need to get him that many, so it'll be under. I think that I'm hedging under as well because in November, even though you're absolutely right, he is averaging about 100 yards a game for the season. Now, the majority of that came early in the season. This late part of the schedule is going to kind of, with the exception of the Clemson game and to maybe a little bit of extent this weekend against Pittsburgh, he's going to have some opportunities to get it. But are we going to see more of a Julian Love? Are we going to see more of a Jadarian Price? Like, this is the time of year where you kind of maybe give some tired legs some rest, even though you have 2 bye weeks built in. So I'm really kind of going back and forth, but I still really think it's going to be a little bit under. I like the 1,100-yard range, but I don't think I'm going to go over 1,200. Again, this is for just the regular season because obviously we don't even know what happens, in terms of his NFL prospects and all that stuff if he would play in a bowl game. But this is just the regular season, 1,200 yards. So I'm going to go under, but you're going over on it, right?
Yeah, I am going to go over.
Okay.
He is right now
okay.
the 11th best running back in the nation.
Yep. And he was leading the nation there at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, he's only got, to me, I think he's about top 5 because he's got only 5 Power 5 running backs ahead of him. I don't really count the Liberty running back or like the Troy running back or, guys like that. I think in terms of Power 5 running backs, to me, he's probably top 1 or top 2, but statistically, he's about the 5 or 6 range right now. And his touchdowns actually are really up there. He's like 3rd or 4th over in total touchdowns right now.
Yep. Notre Dame's a 20.5-point favorite against Pitt this weekend. How comfortable are you in that line for the Irish?
I will be at the game, and I am very uncomfortable with the line and my experience that's going to happen this weekend. Just because, again, I think it's going to be a possession control type of game with lots of running, and I think Narduzzi is going to rely on his defense, right? Because you look at Pitt's offense, they're horrible in a lot of offensive categories, but Pitt has the 26th overall team defense. They have the 45th overall run defense and a top 25 passing defense. So we're going to see 2 top 25 defenses go against each other this weekend, right? And if Pitt secondary is loaded with probably their best athletes on defense overall, their best players. So I think what Pitt does is they dare Notre Dame to throw the ball, right? And I think that they're going to load up the box a little bit. But I really don't feel comfortable with a three score spread in this game. I just think with how much there's going to be ball control and a lot of running, I just don't see Notre Dame getting out ahead. And it's just not in Pitt's favor to let the game get out of hand. They have to keep it close. The only way that the spread happens is if it gets ugly early and the game Pitt has to start airing it out a little bit.
Yeah, and Pitt wants to make you play ugly early. Like the last time these two teams played, 3 years ago, it did get a little bit ugly. Remember that was the Ben Skoranek game when he had the long touchdown and all that kind of stuff. But the last time Pitt was here at Notre Dame Stadium, they made Notre Dame look really ugly early. How did they do that? They took away that intermediate passing game that Ian Book was basically in love with. And right now, that's what Sam Hartman is. The only way this game covers that 20.5 and Notre Dame really rolls on Saturday is if Sam Hartman and those outside receivers, I think, get things going with the vertical passing game. I think that's what it's going to come down to. There are going to be some chances because they're ranked 95th in team pass efficiency defense. There are going to be some chances for Sam Hartman to
Notre Dame
make these guys pay downfield. It's a matter of if he's able to throw it, those guys are able to go get the ball for it.
So I think what the ideal formation would be this week for Notre Dame, and I apologize because it's just been a busy week and I didn't get into some of the whiteboard fun that I usually get into on Thursday. But ideally, to me, like if you knowing what Pitt's defense is, in the passing game and the run game, and you're talking how do you get shots downfield, get your fastest guys on the field, and that's Faison and Tyree again on the field together with a combination of Greathouse and Flores. And then I would love to see Faison and Tyree on the field together at the same time as Audric Estime and Jeremiah Love, because I think you can be dynamic in the run game. You can also be dynamic in the pass game, and it keeps Pitt's defense honest because you have two running backs on the field, but you also have two of your faster speed guys who can clear out get things going deep. And then if you need to fall back on it, you can hit your Mitchell Evans, your Jaden Greathouses more over the middle on some deep drag routes or over routes.
This is the third time they've been a double-digit favorite this season. Navy in the first game, they were 20.5. They covered that. Central Michigan, 35-point favorites at home. They didn't come close to covering that. They're 6-2 against the spread this season, and their games have also gone under 3 of the last 4 games. So I don't like 20.5 at all, unless, some of the stuff that we just talked about right there happens. But they've still got to prove that they can do that because that's not the team that they have been for the last month and a half, basically. So I'm not comfortable in the 20.5 at all.
Same.
So this is Notre Dame men's basketball coach Micah Shrewsberry talking about coaching his son Braeden for the first time this season.
Never coached him before. I think for me, like, he gets treated the same as everybody else. He probably gets treated worse than everybody else. I would, probably. Like, if you know me, you guys will get to know me. I got a very short fuse. The fuse goes off a little bit quicker on him than others. He's pretty stone-faced. He doesn't let stuff rattle him, so it doesn't really bother him a whole lot. I guess on the flip side of that is everybody else on the team knows that, like, there's no favoritism, right? Because he's probably getting it worse than anybody else is. So he's earning his way, and that, it's a process every single day with us, but it's fun. Like, he's just like me. He loves basketball.
So, Jesse, I was sitting there at Media Day when Shrewsberry was talking about this last week. My question to you, does any of that sound familiar?
Yeah, that sounds very familiar. And, well, the thing is like most people think just because you might be a coach's son that you might get the breaks or you might get the advantages. But at the end of the day, you're held to the highest standard and you're held to the highest expectations. And you ultimately get it worse from everyone because of just how it is. That's just the way it goes. And I think it's nothing bad at the end of the day. And that's the thing. Braeden can't, and I know he doesn't take it personally. It's just how the coaching goes. But I just think that sometimes people fall in love with the narrative of, oh, it's the coach's son, or, they're reaping the benefits or they're not working hard. It's quite the opposite. They're some of the hardest workers in the room. And it's just, they're held to higher expectations because of, what the coaches expect out of them. And they know that what their leadership role can be.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. I know it's not fun all the time, but hopefully things work out in the long run. And I'm sure it will for these guys as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing that this year and really for the next 4 years, what comes of Micah Shrewsberry and Braeden Shrewsberry and this whole crew that they've got over there as Jesse flips through the different colors.
I'm like washed out right now, so I'm going to go dark mode.
Salty's a little upset. He says, "You mean to tell me I've been waiting all this time for whiteboard and I get nothing?" Yeah, sorry.
You know, can't have it all every
We
week.
didn't promise any whiteboard at the top of this show. So, should James Franklin be on the hot seat after falling to 1-9 in his career against Ohio State?
Absolutely. James Franklin, I don't think gets enough heat.
Really?
He's 1-9 against Ohio State. He's 3-6 against Michigan. He's 12-24 versus the top 25, and he's 3-16 versus the top 10. You don't get paid to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. You have to go out there and win some of those big ones every now and then. And I don't need James Franklin to have, this astounding record against Ohio State, Michigan, top 25, top 10, but at least be floating around 500. You know what I mean? Maybe a game or two under or above. But I mean, he's just putrid against top level teams. And so it's the same thing every year. So if Penn State's comfortable with being in that 9-10 range every year and not contending with Ohio State and Michigan maybe once every decade, okay, that's fine. But I think with how much talent they have, I do think he's underachieving. And I think he's that defense is loaded. That defense is absolutely loaded, right? And the thing about James Franklin, it's just the same thing every year. It's really good defenses, it's solid offense, and they lack a dynamic quarterback. That's all it is. Every year they lack a dynamic quarterback who can go out there and change the game. And that's the difference between Ohio State and Michigan is their guys are gamers. They take over play games and can be game changers. No, Penn State just doesn't have anyone like that. I don't know if that's a coaching thing, if that's just who they're recruiting overall, but it's the same thing every year.
He definitely has not won the big games to this point. I'm willing to kind of give him, like, for my own personal judgment, 3 years into the expanded college football playoff, because it's basically, it's like the old time. This was before you were born, but before Bobby Bowden finally won a national championship. He, used to joke that they would put on his headstone, he had to play Miami, and Penn State's got to play Ohio State every year. They've got to play Michigan every year. I think there's a reason that Penn State's been in the Big Ten for 3 decades, and they said, we're fine. We don't need any, we don't have any rivalries that we want to protect. When they did that whole scheduling thing for the future, like, we're fine. We'll just play whatever you guys throw at us. We don't necessarily have to play Ohio State and Michigan every year going forward. So they did I saw something within the last couple of weeks. Penn State, they went back over the last few years. If there had been a 12-team playoff in effect in recent years, Penn State would have actually been, of the schools other than your Georgias and Alabamas and Ohio States and Clemsons, they would have been the team that got the most at-large bids for a 12-team playoff. So I think if they do just what they're doing right now, they've got a really strong chance to at least be in a 12-team playoff in the future. And that's going to be good for them. Now, the question then becomes, do you win any of those games? Or do you just keep losing to ranked teams? But at least for now, till the playoff gets expanded and see what they do, I don't necessarily think hot seat is where Franklin needs to be. Brady Quinn said recently on Big Noon Kickoff on Fox that Deion Sanders might be better off if Colorado doesn't make a bowl game this season, because it would allow him to be out recruiting while the other coaches are preparing for their own bowl games. Do you buy or sell that?
So I buy the concept, but I don't buy it overall, because I don't think I don't think Brady Quinn is advocating that they lose games or that they don't make a bowl game.
Was not that at all.
Right. And so like that's I'm buying his concept of it would be beneficial still if they didn't. But to me, it's a win-win situation. If you win enough and you make a bowl game, it's a win for the program, right? Because they went from last year of 1 win to now bowl eligible. Everyone's back on, that Colorado has all the national hype and everything around it, right? And so it's even more appealing to recruits regardless. And why I say it's a win-win is because even if you don't make the bowl game, then yeah, you get a head start on recruiting, and Deion gets that opportunity at the end of the day to go out there and get a head start on some of this recruiting. But to me, how much of a head start does he really need? He's Deion Sanders, right? Like, everyone knows who he is. They know, if he wants him to come play, he's going to be aggressive about it. So I don't think I like the idea of it. And it's just a win-win for me, no matter what. I think no matter what, Colorado is in a good place, regardless of what happens, if they make bowl eligibility or not.
And the reason this came up, they're sitting there at 4-3, and so they need to win a couple more games to become bowl eligible.
And to win me that money, I'm at 6 wins for them.
And the schedule goes UCLA this weekend, then Oregon State, then Arizona, then Washington State, then Utah. So you've got 5 remaining games to win, 2 to become bowl eligible, and 3 of them are against ranked teams right now. The other's against a Washington State team that has been ranked but is not right now. So it's not going to be easy for him to get it. And he's obviously talking about, look, this is still a first-year head coach building his program. And for the future of his program, maybe he's, they've already won this year just by winning 4 games. They've Quinn, what is that? Quadrupled, I guess. If I can think of this better than me. You're the math guy. Quadrupled their win total from a year ago. They've gone from 1 to 4 already. So they've already won to that extent. So, I mean, I can see what he's saying, but at the same time, I think you want to be in a bowl game. To say that you're in a bowl game, to have the opportunity to compete in and win a bowl game, especially as a first-year guy. I think that you're a little bit better off with that, because he's already shown that he can go out and hit the transfer portal and bring guys in if he
How much really of an edge is it? That's the thing.
I don't think he gains that much more by, grassroots organic recruiting. I think he'll be just fine doing what he does.
They really screwed themselves by losing to Stanford, because they could be at 5 wins right now and just need 1 more. That Stanford game was brutal.
Huge. Yep. To lose it 1, and obviously to lose it the way they did. Ugh. So Pat McAfee might not be back on ESPN's College Game Day next year. He has, in a real short amount of time, become a pretty polarizing guy. He says that he's not right for some crowds, and the quote-unquote distinguished college football folks are definitely one of those. So my question to you, is McAfee a good fit for Game Day / is his Pat McAfee show during the week a good fit at ESPN?
So this is personal belief. I think Pat McAfee is good for Game Day, but I don't think that he is well received overall at the end of, I think Game Day needed someone like Pat McAfee, a kind of breath of fresh air, right? Someone to bring something new to a program that people have many have complained about, kind of the staleness, right, over the last couple of years. I just don't think that he is received well by some of those long-standing kind of Game Day fans or people. And that's exactly, I think, what I'm trying to say right there is what Simon said. I think he's good for football, but I just don't think his personality ultimately fits ESPN and the track record of people who have been with ESPN for a while now.
He's a polarizing figure, and just like polarizing teams, the Dallas Cowboys, Notre Dame, Michigan, Alabama now, the New York Yankees, the Los Angeles Lakers, polarization is good for sports. You need a villain. You need someone who half the people are going to dislike and half the people are going to like, because that turns into ratings. Because if you have that kind of person, even the people who dislike him will still watch just to say how stupid he is or how, whatever, and, take shots at him. So I think that he is good. I think that, and I've said this before, his personality on his regular show during the week is different than his personality, like what he definitely pushes it. It's like he dials it up on College Game Day. And the fact that he's doing that, I think that he was asked to do that. And like Brian NY says, the show needs him. Why are you sitting there in the dark? By the way, what are you doing right now? The show needs him, I think, because they needed a breath of fresh air. They don't have, Herb Street and Desmond Howard are not the big personalities. Like Corso a few years ago, when he was still vintage Corso, was a much different kind of personality, a bigger personality with more opinions, and they need that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Now, the show itself during the week, again, I don't think it's a bad show. It's a very different show because it's not your typical on TV talk show. I mean, the guy doesn't take commercial breaks. It's a 2-hour show on ESPN. They take one break in the middle for a few minutes. Otherwise, he's talking for an hour straight. He talks the entire first hour. He talks the entire second hour. So it's different. I think it's solid. Like I said, watched an interview with Nick Saban on there today. It's a solid show.
So my thing is his I agree. I think his show is very solid, but it's like if it leaves ESPN, what is the good fit? Is there actually a better fit or a good fit overall? And here's a hot take that I have overall is I think Desmond laughs with him / enjoys him, right? I don't think he takes him 100% seriously, but I think he goes along with it a little bit more, and he enjoys it, and he enjoys what Pat McAfee brings, and just the overall kind of good vibes, everything that he brings. I think Herb Street doesn't like him, to be honest with you. I think Herb Street gets annoyed with Pat McAfee, and I think he's a little bit.
You talk about different personalities,
right?
There,
exactly. Like Kirk Herbstreit is the Derek Jeter of that cast to me at the end of the day. And I don't think he 100% and Pat McAfee is the David Ortiz. Right. And so I just don't think at the end of the day, Herbstreit thinks that he brings enough seriousness to it. Right. Like this is college football at the end of the day. So,
but it shouldn't have to be that serious because it's
game day. You're on a college campus.
Right. You've got a guy having fun.
You bring in a celebrity guest picker who was half painted the other, against Washington. It's
exactly.
What is this supposed to be?
Exactly. I think that some people kind of take it a little bit too seriously. And I think that he's been a good breath of fresh air for that program that really hasn't made a whole lot of changes in recent years. They needed someone other than a guy who's going to sit there and break down film and, do the standard things that all the other guys can do. They needed a different kind of personality on there. So I think that he has been good for both. Again, it's a different kind of show than ESPN has had before, but in both cases, I think they're counting on him on bringing in a younger audience. And based on what I've seen so far, he's done that. Now, what that means is you're going to stir up some other people along the way. And again, I think that that's nothing but a good thing if you're stirring some other people.
That's the thing, though, is anything new is always going to stir people because they've never seen it before and they're uncomfortable by it.
Right. We are going to wrap it up with that. We've got IB Countdown to Kickoff coming up this weekend. Of course, we posted on YouTube Friday night, and the podcast drops Saturday morning. It is Notre Dame and Pittsburgh. Jesse is bringing himself in from Cleveland to the Pittsburgh game this weekend. So looking forward to seeing you here.
Yeah. So if anyone in the chat's going to be at the IB tailgate, I know for sure I'll stop by at some point. And yeah, that's the thing. I've worked for IB now for over a year, and I don't think I've ever made an official IB appearance. So kind of excited to do that. Meet some of the people, that listen to us on an everyday basis. So excited to do that.
Yep. All right. Good deal. Safe travels, and I will talk to you soon. Hit the like button on your way out, and of course, subscribe, rate, and review, and we will talk to you later on IB Nation Sports Talk.